No, you naturally believe because you remember that I said it. Natural beliefs about human freedom. Natural beliefs about moral principle. These are rooted in the human constitution, in the proclivities. It's an interesting word. In the proclivities of human nature. And you may recall that's the very word that David Hume uses when he's talking of moral psychology. The proclivities. In fact, this morning I was reading Keith Yandel's book on David Hume's philosophy of religion. And he has a whole chapter dealing with the proclivities of human nature in David Hume. Because while Hume says, in effect, that the self is simply a bundle of mutually independent and isolated ideas, perceptions, and impressions, with no underlying mind or soul substance that we can know of. Yet paradoxically, he also says that human nature has certain natural tendencies that persuade us. It's curious. There's no relationship between the bits and pieces in the consciousness, but somehow or other, we join them together in certain standard ways. Because Yandel argues that that's an inconsistency in Hume. He's got two different views of the self that don't belong to him. Well, what Reid is doing is then building on this notion of human proclivities, rooted in the human constitution, by virtue of which we don't see relationships between atomistic, discrete ideas, but by virtue of which we achieve beliefs in a natural process. And you can even say that, for him, these are necessary beliefs. They are necessarily true. Now, the word necessary in this case seems to mean something like psychologically necessary. Given human psychology, you cannot help but believe certain things, psychologically necessary. Which is different, is it not, from the notion of what is logically necessary, where a necessary truth in the logical sense is one whose only alternative, the contradiction of it, is self-contradictory and therefore false. So if the alternatives are A or non-A, and non-A turns out to be self-contradictory and therefore false, then, of logical necessity, A is true. You see, that would be a logically necessary truth. Now, the interesting thing is that G.E. Moore, who picks up on this right after 1900, he maintains that these natural beliefs are logically necessary. Why? Because the contradiction of them is self-contradictory. How come? Well, take, for instance, that guy that I mentioned last time, who said that time is unreal. Okay? Time is unreal. He contradicts every time he says, I've got to do something before I do something else. It's a self-contradictory view. Okay? Moore calls it the paradox that philosophers are constantly denying by what they do the things that they say. Okay? Which sounds very much like Thomas Reid, doesn't it? The contradiction is between theory and practice. If you believe what you say, then you will act that way. And so the claim is that that contradiction makes it a logically necessary truth. It's never been very favourably received by people who are not realists, but some people, understandably, will think that there is some slip of categories going on there, mixing practical and theoretical. All right, so we have then these natural or common sense beliefs. Listen to what Reid says about your friend Descartes. A man like Descartes, who doubts his own existence, remember meditation one, is surely as unfit to be reasoned with as a man who believes that he's made of glass. There may be disorders in the human frame that produce such extravagances, but they'll never be cured by reasoning. Now, in addition to the sort of ad hominem remarks, and in addition to the sense of humour, the obvious point is that if you think you don't exist, there's something that's not functioning right. You see, you've got some psychological problem. Your natural proclivities are misfiring. You see, because natural beliefs are spontaneous; they're not voluntary. They're spontaneous interpretations of experience. So that when you have a sensation, a physical sensation, it's a sign to you that there is some material object around. And so belief in the thing signified is a natural, spontaneous kind of reaction, response. And you see what's happening there makes it sound like behavioristic stimulus response mechanisms. So that the nature of direct awareness is such that, if that's the eye, okay, there's a stimulus, sensation, okay, which immediately produces response, affirming something's there. You didn't blink, you were supposed to. I did. Because your blink would affirm the recognition of something there. I'll do it a little better next time. Now, while Reid, of course, is pre-behavioristic psychology, after the development of behavioristic psychology, Watson and so forth, yes, realists did start appealing to the stimulus-reflex mechanisms and explaining the direct nature of sense awareness. So a sensation, then, is a sign that God has arranged we should get. A remembrance is a sign. You see, I'm remembering something. Something's coming back, I say, to my mind. Coming back? It's a sign that there is something there to come back. And spontaneously I respond and affirm what I remember. And an imagination, what you know is simply imagination, is a sign, knowing it's something you're imagining, it's a sign that there is nothing there that you're believing. So that when I talk about my fairy giraffes with butterfly wings, you see, knowing that that's an imaginary kind of specimen, you don't take it as an indication of a material object. You take it as an indication of Holmes' crazy ideas. Nothing but that. Well, then, it's due to human constitution as a whole, and it's common to all human beings, not a result of reasoning processes that we have these natural beliefs. Now, these Scottish realists were, not surprisingly, Scottish Presbyterians, and their theism comes out in ways I've indicated. But I'm interested to find a parallel kind of statement, not identical, but a parallel statement in John Calvin. And I don't want to suggest that Thomas Reid had read the same edition of Calvin's Institutes that I happened to read, or even that he had noted this passage in his own edition of Calvin's Institutes. But listen to it and you'll note the similarity. This is John Calvin. The manifold agility of the soul, which enables it to take a survey of heaven and earth, to join past to present, to retain the memory of things heard long ago, to conceive of whatever it chooses by the help of imagination. You see, there's perception, surveying heaven and earth, memory, things long ago, now imagination. And its ingenuity in the invention of such admirable arts, and he goes on to name some, are certain proofs of the divinity in man. In other words, human nature, the way we're made, provides evidence of a creator giving us these proclivities. So while Calvin takes this as evidence for the existence of God, Reid, dealing with epistemology, taking the existence of God as a given, finds there the justification for natural beliefs. Okay? I might say that when you get to the 20th century, people like G.E. Moore, there's no theistic justification. G.E. Moore remains sort of agnostic, religiously. Okay, so theory of ideas, natural beliefs. Let me pause there for a moment. Comment? Feedback? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering about Hume's two views on Reid's criticism.
The two views on?
Of the self-inconsistent.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering if there's some sort of order that Hume perceives in his final perception rather than, and I'm wondering, maybe just really reaching, but I'm wondering if Whitehead has to do the same problem if he does those process rather than...
One, Hume does not, that I recall, talk about the inner order of this bundle of perceptions. No. His language is simply that of ideas appearing and passing on the stage of consciousness. On the other hand, when he comes to talk about memory, he recognizes we have some natural belief that we draw on at that juncture, a natural proclivity, if you like. But he doesn't explain how that could be. What is it that has the proclivity, if all there is perceptions? So now the Whitehead question, yes, Whitehead does have to deal with this. You may want to come back to this when we get to Whitehead. But you see, Whitehead takes roughly Hume's view that the self is simply a temporal stream of occasions of consciousness. And that's half Whitehead's language and half translated. But a temporal stream of occasions of consciousness that does develop its own inner character, its own inner characteristics. So he has to deal with Hume's question. He does deal with Hume's question. And the debate among the Whitehead scholars is whether he does it adequately. How does he do it? By virtue of the fact that he rejects the view that every moment of experience is devoid of causal power. For Whitehead, following the realists, every event that occurs is a unit of causal force. So he's overcome the causal power problem. That's how he does it. Okay, human freedom. David? No, not natural ideas. He rejects the view that there are intermediary ideas between the mind and the object. He has natural beliefs. A belief is not an idea. A belief involves a judgment. You see, a judgment which recognizes, affirms the agreement or disagreement of ideas. Now that's different from an idea. Okay. Incidentally, some of you in your Hume outlines weren't seeing clearly the distinction between ideas and two kinds of knowledge, relations of ideas and matters of fact, and tend to view relations of ideas and matters of fact as further kinds of ideas. No, there are two kinds of judgment, two kinds of knowledge. Ideas are simply simple, complex, and preceded by impressions. Yeah. Okay, freedom and determinism. Recall David Hume, who said that while we have no knowledge of necessary connection, the constant conjunctions of the same pairs of things, antecedent, consequent, again and again and again, leads us to believe in causal connection. And inasmuch as those kinds of regularities occur in human experience and are admitted by both the advocate of human liberty, human free will, and the advocate of determinism, necessitarianism, there's really nothing to choose between the two of his. Now, Reid disagrees strongly. Reid says that there is a causal power involved in human action, which is distinctive. He calls it human agency. Human agency. As a result of which, in the 20th century discussion, we distinguish between agency causation and simply physical causation. Agency causation involving the human agent. Now, what Reid is maintaining is that our own causal agency is a kind of power, causal power, of which we have direct awareness. Our own causal agency. is a causal power of which we have direct awareness. We know with immediate awareness that we have the power to initiate events, to make something happen. And so I have the power to say, that's the end of class and you can leave. And I'm sure it would initiate a happening, but not yet. This direct awareness of having the power, of exercising the power, is one of these natural beliefs that's unavoidable. Now, the question, of course, is whether the exertion of that power, the exercise of that power, is itself free or is determined. Hume says we can be free to act, but we don't have freedom of choice. Because the constant conjunction between the motives and the actions leads us to think that the actions are determined by the motives. And it's here that, again, Reid disagrees. Freedom is the ability to choose to cause something or not to cause something to happen. That freedom is not just an act of reasoning. Our reasonings may be determined by antecedent ideas and beliefs. But freedom is not an act of reasoning or the result of that. It's not just motivation. Because our motives, as Hume has pointed out, may be determined. But the choice is a choice that we have between alternative reasonings and between alternative motives. And sometimes we choose without appealing to stronger reasons or without conscious motives. In other words, our reasonings and our motives may be determined, but on the other hand, they may not. And inasmuch as we are aware, direct awareness of the freedom in choosing alternatives, it's the introspective argument, there arises the natural belief in freedom, which he affirms. Now, he faces three counter-arguments to it. One counter-argument is that there surely has to be sufficient cause to explain everything. Everything must have a reason, law of sufficient reason. To which Reid's response is, agency is sufficient reason. There are occasions when I'm the cause, and my choice. If there are no causes, it's capricious and dangerous. To which he says, agency is not an uncaused act. I am the cause of my agent acts, and I don't act capriciously, but deliberately. The third objection is that free choice is, in fact, possessed only by God, who causes everything. You remember the view that God is the all-powerful one, has all the power. So the objection is, if God has all the power, how could we have the power as agent causes? To which Reid's response is that foreknowledge, the fact that God might know what's going to occur, foreknowledge does not force it to occur. That is to say, there are secondary causes, such as agents, who are the causes involved in producing things. So he responds to those rather standard kinds of arguments, however adequately, of course, is what is often debated. Okay, any comment there, or ready to take a look at his ethics? It's almost predictable what he's going to say, isn't it? Once you get the notion of natural belief, it's almost predictable. Is there any way of describing the act of making a choice that makes it seem free? Awareness of physical causation, yes, and the strain in the muscles. Choosing. Yeah, do you ever struggle with two alternatives where, as you look at the two alternatives, there's no overwhelming case so that the decision is sort of, we say easy, but sort of made for you? Yeah, there are times when you do that. You see. You realise you could go either way. And perhaps at the last minute you change your mind. You see, there is that experience of agonising freedom of choice. It's the sort of thing to which he appeals. All right, Reid's ethics. I said just now that Reid was a foundationalist, so that all reasoning starts with first principles. Okay, that's the way it is in ethics. So that ethics, like any science, has its first principles. Now, that's a very revealing statement. Ethics, like any science, has its first principles. Hume says that ethics is not a science. Metaphysics is not a science, because there are no first principles from which you deduce. But Reid says that ethics is a science, and there are first principles from which you deduce. Now, he talks about these first principles in various ways. Let me list the ways in which he talks about them. These are sort of synonymous phrases, as best I can see. He says that first principles are self-evident principles. Self-evident. To everyone who has a conscience and has taken pains to exercise it. Natural proclivities. He says that there are natural